There are always some negatives that accompany positives in life, but it seems as if the negatives have outweighed the positives in the past several years. And worst of all, it can feel as if there's nothing that can be done about it. When the world as we have known it feels as if there's no way to find the right answer for what to do, when living in a world that sometimes appears nonsensical and has so many people believing that life on earth feels like an apocalypse, what's really going on is a global crisis of powerlessness. A time when very critical, important, and difficult decisions must be made. However real or imagined, life is always a matter of perspective on what is happening around us. If we allow fear to control us, it will. It's what you do with it that can make all the difference. Because the true meaning of perseverance is not giving up, staying calm and focused when things don't go our way. It is persistent and tenacity, the effort required to do something and keep doing it till the end, even if it's hard. We get really good at whatever we practice. If we practice flexibility, humility, or courage, we get really adept at those things. But if we practice rigidness, cowardice, or ego, we get adept at those things as well. Any parent will attest to the fact that nothing is more persistent than a nagging child. Just think about a child at the supermarket, for example, who wants a toy or candy off the shelf. The child might cry, scream, or have a tantrum until they get their way. However, sometimes there's a standoff with the parent saying no, and the child continues crying through the checkout line all the way to the parking lot. That's because children can have laser-like focus on getting what they want, even if their parents say no. They're persistent. They don't give up. Throughout history, there have been numerous remarkable examples of perseverance that have inspired many, such as athletes achieving rigorously through injuries to compete in the Olympics, a single parent working multiple jobs to provide for their children, an entrepreneur overcoming multiple business failures to launch a successful company, a student studying diligently despite learning difficulties to achieve academic success. One such remarkable story is that of Glenn Cunningham, an athlete who was horribly burned in a schoolhouse fire at the age of 8. He faced dire predictions from doctors who said he would never walk again. However, despite this, Glenn was determined to regain his mobility. Through sheer determination, he not only learned to walk again, but also to run, eventually becoming one of the greatest middle-distance runners of his time. He ran for the United States at the 1932 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, placing 4th in the 1,500-meter race, and won the silver medal in the 1,500-meter race at the 1936 Olympics in Berlin. Perseverance often involves sustained effort over a considerable period of time and the ability to bounce back from setbacks, not just a quick burst of energy. To keep moving forward is a key aspect of perseverance. As a struggling artist, Van Gogh only sold 2 known paintings in his whole life. But like many struggling painters of his time, he didn't reach fame until after his death. Other examples of artists who only reached their peak fame post-mortem include Edgar Allan Poe, John Keats, and Herman Melville. These people all persisted with their craft despite disappointingly low fame and money throughout their lifetimes. Dr. Seuss's first book was rejected 27 times, and an author, J.K. Rowling's book, Harry Potter, was rejected 12 times before Bloomsbury Publishing finally accepted the book. The poet Rumi advises us to let the beauty of what we love be what we do. When people love their work, they tend to be more creative. They're driven by genuine interest and enjoyment rather than solely external factors like pay or pressure. Moreover, setbacks are viewed as opportunities for growth and learning. In the United States, the road to civil rights was a decade-long struggle for racial equality. It began with the emancipation of enslaved people after the Civil War and continued through the 1960s. Through the 1950s and 60s, civil rights protesters in the United States created a groundswell of support for their movement through consistent, nonviolent activism. Protesters like John Lewis and Martin Luther King Jr. did not give up even when they were arrested and persecuted. They stood up for what they knew was right through adversity. And the legacy of the civil rights movement is that it secured legal protection for African Americans. However, with the illegal entries into the homes of innocent people and continued racial profiling, it often feels like we're losing ground. But we won't give up. We won't give up the fight. And then I look at Malala Yousafzai, a Pakistani activist who, as a teenager, spoke out against the Taliban's ban on girls' education in her country. In 2012, when she was 15 years old, the Taliban shot her in the head while she was riding the bus home from school. Despite facing life-threatening danger, she persists and continues to advocate for girls' education worldwide. Former UUA President Reverend Susan Frederick Gray informed, in liminal times, there's always a risk that fear and anxiety will dominate and lead people to cling more tightly to what has been. We know from these last several years the challenge, the loss, and the creativity and possibility of these transitional times. But those who make it through liminal time with courage and heart return to a transformed life, bearing precious gifts of perspective, gratitude, courage, and wisdom. These post-traumatic strengths get shared with the community and uplift the whole. Now, through the years, I've written about liminal time, that pregnant pause between what is no longer and what is not yet. Liminal time is a known stage in all rites of passages. However, whether we're talking about a pandemic, a war, a refugee crisis, or even a personal or religious ritual, a graduation, or a new job far away from family and friends, the stages of a rite of passage are the same. This is the liminal time that we're living in now, between what was a democracy, despite its shortfalls, and what is yet to come. Injustice isn't new, and it's not going away anytime soon. As Unitarian Universalists, our journey is to transform the big and the small, to transform ourselves, and to transform the world. Now, that seems like a tall order, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities, because collectively, we all have one goal in mind: to do good. Although we are all at different places on our individual paths and find different ways to do good. A core aspect of spiritual perseverance is the ability to stay dedicated to our beliefs despite encountering hardships, setbacks, or doubts. It requires drawing on inner resilience and faith to keep moving forward on our spiritual path. We move mountains one stone at a time. Joan Borisenko, PhD, is a world-renowned expert in mind-body connection. Through research and clinical experiments, she has identified several commonalities in resilient people. There's human connection, because family and friends might be far away, but the same technology that many of us demonized a few years ago has turned out to offer a deep connection. There's realism. Realism is important because we can't cope in a way that optimizes choice unless we face reality head on. I believe that over the years, Americans generally have failed to face the reality that some of what has been called conspiracy theories have been just the opposite. We need to hear the truth and look directly into the eyes of the beast, have faith in what's possible, and a vision of what could be. Faith doesn't have to be religious. It can be faith in human goodness, ingenuity, or our own ability to handle whatever comes our way. But when and until our whole country shares the same vision, it is only then that we will be able to beat anything that comes our way. Creativity, we have to find innovative new ways of being and helping others by giving in whatever way we can. It reverses the flow of attention from our own problems to how we can help and inspire others. There is always someone with less than what we have, even if that something is perseverance and tenacity. Self-regulation, knowing how to calm the nervous system through breathing, meditation, prayer, managing our emotions, moving our body, listening to music, talking with a friend, following a routine, and getting out into nature are basic to resilience. A couple of weeks ago, I was feeling off kilter. I failed at naming just what was going on, but having a conversation with a colleague friend was an enormous relief, because we're all affected by the negative energy surrounding us. And there is a level of fear and powerlessness that we are all experiencing to some degree. We're facing the unknown. And without these tools, our body's survival system overrides reason, and this leads to poor choices, stress, and distress. And when this happens, we are powerless to help ourselves as well as others. Now, it would be wrong to close our eyes and pretend everything is okay when it certainly isn't. As much as we would like to go back to sleep, to unsee and unhear everything that is swirling around us, it's not possible. And it doesn't jive with our Unitarian Universalist values. Remember, the two denominations, Unitarian and Universalist, began with talks as far back as 1865, before culminating into a merger of the two in 1961. It took tenacity and perseverance during the liminal time of the in-between years for the transformation into Unitarian Universalism that we know today. Unitarian Universalism has a rich theological legacy. In our responsible search for truth and meaning, we're called to wrestle with our theological legacy and engage with it in the search for deeper spiritual depth and communal inspiration for the work of transformation. Our actions to live our values can be grounded in our deepened commitment to our values. Universalism means no one is outside of the circle of love, and no one is disposable. We stubbornly seek out the spark of the divine in each other, no matter what, no matter who. We struggle for liberation from the violence of white supremacy, sexism, ableism, classism, and heterosexism. Interdependence means none of us is truly free until we all are. And our thriving is bound up in the earth's thriving and the thriving of one another. Our covenants mean we make promises to our communities to honor love and justice above all else. From my heart to yours, may it be so.